Welcome to the Becoming a Pilot podcast, where we share first-hand experiences, practical advice, and insights from pilots at every stage of their journey. I'm your host, Dave Angus, and whether you're just starting out or working towards your next rating, we're here to help you navigate the path to becoming a pilot. So buckle up, stay tuned, and let's talk all things aviation.
This podcast is brought to you by Genesis Flight College, Canada's premier flight center. With an advanced fleet of Diamond aircraft and experienced instructors, Genesis Flight College provides top-tier training in the heart of southern Georgian Bay. Ready to start your journey to becoming a pilot? Inquire today.
Welcome back to the Becoming a Pilot podcast. My name is Dave, and we have Tyler here once again. And we're going to talk about the Diamond aircraft today and what the advantages of flying a modern aircraft versus, an older aircraft, let's say. Mm-hmm. And also the advantage of flying with a fleet that has the same aircraft all throughout. Mm-hmm. So here at Genesis, we have the DA-20, the DA-40, and the DA-42. So that is the two-seater model, which is the DA-20, the four-seater model, which is the DA-40, and then the twin engine, which is the 42.
Right.
Now, what would you say is like kind of the best thing about having all three of those aircraft in our fleet?
Well, right away, the seamless integration to each one.
Right.
Like they're all the, Garmin G1000 or variants of that. So it's glass. So yeah, really valuable for a training aircraft.
Right.
Advanced avionics transfers into the aviation industry throughout. So, seamless integration into the airlines with that.
What we're seeing a lot as well is that with the cadets, because they're going from our aircraft to the 737, is a similarity with the autopilot system.
Yeah.
I know in flight training, especially in the private, you're really not going to be using the autopilot all that much, if at all.
Yeah.
But learning that system, especially going through your training and getting into the instrument training, is so important because the principles of the autopilot in the DA-40 or the DA-42 is very similar to that in the Boeing aircraft, right? The way that you set it up is very similar. Obviously, the positioning is a little bit different. The knobs are a little bit different, but the principles are the same. Right. You learn how to set up your vertical speed, use a flight level change, setting a heading, setting a nav, setting approach mode, whatever it is, right? It's all the same principles. So understanding how that works and how to use it, and then transferring that into the airline is huge. And that's one of the biggest pushes here at Genesis is that career-driven pilot. So that's important, right?
Right.
So you're saying the continuity between the DA-20, the DA-40, and the DA-42 is seamless. And it really is. To fly them, it's just a little bit slightly bigger of an aircraft, but everything's kind of in the same spot.
Yeah.
But I find the biggest advantage between that and an older aircraft is just sit in it in the feel, right? Like, the aircraft feels more robust. It does have a bigger engine than a lot of like the 172s that you'd be flying, unless you were flying one that was previously on floats.
Yeah.
Also getting into the aircraft and it being in good condition, right? Unfortunately, flight school airplanes do get beat up.
Definitely.
People drive it like they rented it, not drive it like they own it.
Yeah.
So, that's not to say a 172 or any of those are not good aircraft. They're fantastic aircraft. There's a reason why they're the highest selling aircraft. Sure. But unfortunately, a flight school, for the most part, is going to buy an older one that's a little bit cheaper, that's been beaten up, and they're not going to be in the best condition. So being able to go into the aircraft here and know that they're going to be in good working order.
Definitely.
They look nice too. All of that is really important. I also find, coming from a different flight school, that being able to be scheduled into any of the aircraft and it being seamless is actually more important than you would think.
For sure.
When I was learning on a 172, we had all different models. We had P models, we had R models, we had S models, we had G1000 models, we had all these different things, and you didn't really know what you were going to be necessarily flying. Like my instructor was good. He was like, I'm just always going to put you on a P model. Well, that was good, but sometimes it'd be an R model. Well, then the aircraft was totally different.
Yeah.
And then, we're on a G1000 today. I'm not allowed to fly the G1000. I haven't done a 5-hour checkout or things like that, So it added a complexity that you just don't necessarily want as a student.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry. Obviously we all have our own little, I like, YCS better than the next. We all have that.
Yeah.
but that's just a personal
It
thing, and it's
is.
probably not warranted and not based on anything other than how it gives us the warm and fuzzies. But
Yeah, exactly.
but ultimately the aircraft are all the same, and Dave here has made it his mission to make sure that they're all very, very similar to as
Yeah.
close as they can be,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's really important. And then especially when making that transition from the 40 to the 42, just a few more buttons
Yeah.
is really all it is.
Yeah.
The airplane is very
Less
similar.
levers and
Yeah,
a few more
it's
buttons.
actually easier
Well,
in some ways.
easier, yeah.
It's more complex, and when things go wrong, that's where the complexity comes in. But
Yeah.
overall,
Yeah.
so that's really good. And then you're starting to see some of the schools now that are seeing the importance of having modern aircraft, and then looking at let's say like a Cirrus fleet. So as we've talked about, like the Cirrus makes an incredible airplane. There's nothing that you can't say anything wrong about it. It's obviously people will make jokes about Cirrus owners, but
Yeah.
I think that's just an aviator's joke. It's not really based on anything. They're great.
Right.
They're fantastic airplanes.
Yeah.
But the biggest downside to them is that Cirrus didn't really design that airplane to be a flight school airplane. It can be used in the flight school. I'm not saying that you can't use that.
Definitely.
But the Diamond aircraft was made to be a pilot's aircraft, and if you actually look at it, it's laid out a lot like a fighter jet type thing, in the sense where that's a center stick. It's the seating position is a lot more comfortable, a lot more ergonomic in that sense. Whereas the Cirrus is set up to be like an owner's airplane. It's a cross-country platform, and it's a fantastic cross-country platform.
Yeah.
It's really good. It does that really well, but it's not set up to go and do steep turns and go do, attitudes and movements and all these things while learning how to fly the plane.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to look at when you're looking at what flight school to go to is what's that fleet, and then also okay, that fleet might have some Cirrus, but then what's the next airplane you're getting into? It's going to be something totally different.
Right.
We want to have that standardization throughout your flight training. It makes it easier, right?
Definitely does.
So that you're more comfortable, and then come flight test time, you're ready, right? So what's kind of like the biggest thing that you'd say about the Diamond aircraft that you like personally?
I like the feel of the aircraft and how positively stable it is.
Yeah.
And it glides like really well.
Right.
It's basically built off a glider. So
Right.
yeah. So the stability of the aircraft's a big one, and the avionics is another big one, right? And it's an easy training aircraft. It's easy to teach on, and it's easy to learn on.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing you're saying, the avionics, and that's like a whole other, can of worms when you start talking about glass cockpit versus steam gauges in flight training.
Yeah, analog.
And
Yeah.
you know what? I always just say, okay, then look at the standby instruments.
Yeah.
Like if that
Right.
really bothers you,
Yeah.
that you're looking at a glass cockpit. As I've always said, though, if you can't transition between a glass and steam, there's a bigger underlying problem.
Yeah.
But not to put it harsh, but it's all the same information.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just
just
real
displayed
world now.
differently.
It's all real world now. And actually, just to kind of reinforce that, because now we have a lot of instructors that have come from the airlines that have airline background that are helping teach the airline side of the cadet program. They look at it and they're like, these things are essentially what you're going to see even more. Actually, I know in Perry, in our podcast I had with Perry, he was saying they were more advanced than some of the aircraft that he even flew at the airlines, right? Like it's incredible what they could do, right? And it really is. So
that doesn't surprise me. He had a long career, so
he did, yeah. Some of the airplanes I'm sure that he flew are a little old now, a little tired, but
probably retired, just
yes.
like he is.
So it's that I find that all of that in your flight training is really important. And when choosing the flight school, finding a fleet that one has standardization across it, and then also has a modern fleet is super, super important. A lot of people will get caught up, well, modern fleet costs more money. Yes, it costs more money. Of course. But you have to look at the big picture and what it's going to do. And we've talked about this time and time again. What's going to look better at the end of the day? A pilot that just passed out on a 172, totally if you're looking for a career. If you're not looking for a career, this is a totally different conversation. It's not really as much what we focus on and specialize here. But if you are looking to get into that career, that glass cockpit time and that modern aircraft time is hands down something that will put you that step ahead.
Yeah, and I think the another advantage to the glass cockpit is, as opposed to an analog, is the instruments themselves run off a computer, so
Right.
they're not as susceptible to some of the disadvantages of those analog displays, right? So the ADC, the air data computer, and the AHRS, the attitude heading reference system, is flawless. Like,
Yeah.
you don't experience a lot of those upsets with the instrumentation.
Yeah, like the toppling and all of that. Yeah, it's great. You really don't have, unless it fails,
Right,
which I wouldn't say fails any more than an analog instrument.
right. And then we have the backup. So
Then you have the backup.
Yeah.
Right. So you're always protected. I think it's great. So awesome.
yep.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks.
Talking about the Diamond aircraft, I love them. I'm a little partial to them, but
Me too.
I think they're a fantastic training airplane.
I agree.
Anyone who gets in it normally says these things are incredible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that.
Right.
Awesome. Actually, one more thing that I'll add about that:
Uh-huh.
the seating position.
Yeah.
Maybe low for some people, but the
Right.
one thing that I actually love about it is that you can't change the seating position.
You do love that.
I love that
Yeah.
because every time I go in, it's the exact same sight picture.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
When I get into
is
my
an
Cessna,
advantage.
I'm always like, okay, how many cranks was
Yeah.
this? So 1, 2,
Yeah,
3,
yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And then I get in it, I'm like, wow, did I grow? Like, I
Right.
should go down more.
I know.
Oh, and I'm too low and I'm already up in the air. Now I can't see it. Like, you know what I mean?
The constant adjustment.
Yeah, having that and then being like, okay, I like to use a cushion and or like whatever, and that puts you up, and then that's your sight picture. And
Right.
every time you get into one of those airplanes, it'll always be the same.
Yeah.
I actually think that's worth its weight in gold. Like it's
Yeah.
you go do
That's a good
steep
point.
turns, go do your landings. Your landings are that much better when your sight picture is the exact same every time. And you just like, as much as you play around with those seats, I just find like with the adjustable seats, it's never the same.
No, it's like if you lend somebody your car and
Oh, yeah.
mess with your seat and
Oh,
you
yeah.
get it back and it's like you're trying to figure
It's
it out
never the
forever.
same. Never the same. Yeah. Yeah. I tell my wife that one. Eh?
Yeah.
Every time she gets in, I get in, it's like a clown car after. So awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it. Until the
Good to
next
see you.
one. All right,
All right.
buddy.